guys, welcome to Ayana's DIY Corner, and in today's video I'm going to share with you guys how I created that awesome leggings you saw in the thumbnail. Now I'm going to share with you guys some tips and tricks when it comes to creating this piece, and the fun thing is that you can use a pre-existing leggings from your closet, but an old one, I will say one that you have no plans on wearing anymore, maybe because it's torn or worn out or whatever. That's what you're going to want to use today for your pattern to create your leggings. So let's get into it. So here's what you're going to need for the project ahead. Your pins, your clips, if you have any craft clips, get yourself your fabric scissors, tailoring chalk, a ruler. Doesn't necessarily have to be a long one, and also you want to probably thread about 2 or 3 of your spools for your project, because you wouldn't like the one that's in your sewing machine bobbin to run out and then you have to stop your project to thread more. So I would recommend you thread about 3 of these bobbin stools so that your project will flow when you're doing it. You're going to want to get yourself an old pair of leggings. So this is my old pair of leggings right here that I'm going to use. Now I have no intentions of wearing this anymore, so I can happily cut this to get my pattern, and I'm going to be using this fox leather to create my leggings. Now you may not be using fox leather, you may be using another type of stretchy fabric, and that is okay. It really doesn't matter. The most important thing is to make sure that your fabric has stretch. And here's a little tip you should probably pay attention to as well. Now when it comes to stretchy fabrics, different stretchy fabrics stretch different ways. So for example, my fox leather fabric stretches only one way, and that is the width way. So for example, let me just open this a tad. So here is my fox leather, and as you can see, it stretches width way. If I try to stretch this length way, there's no stretch at all. It cannot stretch length way. It can only stretch one way, and that is width way. There are other stretchy fabrics that stretches 2 ways, which means it could stretch width ways, length ways, or it could stretch length ways and cross length ways. Either way, it stretches 2 ways. And then you have the 4-way stretch fabrics, and those are the stretchy fabrics that are used to create your active wear, or those really good strong swimsuits or swimwear that they use for professional swimming. Those are the really good 4-way stretch, so it stretches width, length, and cross length. All right, so pay attention to the type of stretch way that your stretchy fabric has, and that is very important. So for example, with my fox leather fabric, because it only stretches one way, which is the width way, I have to pay attention to how I am folding and laying my fabric and placing my pattern to ensure that I get the stretch where I need it. And for me, the stretch needs to be width ways so that it stretches for my thighs, for my butt, and to go up over my hips and go back into shape when it reaches my waist area. So pay attention to the ways your stretchy fabric goes, because you're going to need to make sure when you're laying your pattern, you are laying your pattern onto the direction that you need the stretch to be on. If you're using those really good spandex fabrics, which is the 4-way stretch, you don't need to pay attention to that. So no matter where you lay your fabric, you don't need to worry if you're gonna get the stretch, because it stretches 4 ways, and that's ideal. The only time you need to pay attention is when it is a 1-way and a 2-way stretch. That is where you need to pay attention, so you would know how to lay your pattern to get the stretch where you need it to be on your garment. So with that said, let's move forward. Now, before we move forward, I just want to share this important part, just in case you are like me and the leggings you're using for your pattern does not have that center line crotch seam on it. You are going to have to create that center crotch seam so that you can follow. Now, what I mean is this. Now, this is one of my active wear leggings. I'm not cutting this one. And if you pay attention, if you look, let me put it to the back so you can see. Okay, so if you look, you would notice that I have a center seam going down the middle. All right. And when I have to cut my leggings to create my pattern, I'm going to have to follow this center seam upwards here to cut it. So this center crotch seam is my guide to cut open my leggings to create my pattern. Now, the old leggings that I'm going to use does not have that center seam at all. So I'm going to have to create that center seam at the back and at the front. So if you are using a leggings like mine and it does not have that center crotch seam, you're going to want to have to do this. If your leggings does have that center seam there going along the crotch line, then you don't need to do this part, and you can move on to the cutting of the pattern. Let me show you how to create that center seam. So all you want to do, I'm going to do it at the back first. So what you want to do is fold your leggings in half. So it must look like this. The next thing you want to do is just fix that crotch. So all you want is the crotch seam. Okay, so you're going to pull on that crotch seam. All right. So now what you have is this. And this is your back crotch seam right here. Now I need to get that line so that I am not going to be in any type of trouble later when I have to cut open for my pattern. So I'm going to place my ruler right onto the center line, the crotch seam there at the bottom, and I'm going to lay my ruler right onto the edge. I'm going to take my chalk and I am just going to mark with my chalk. Hopefully it is coming out, right? And I'm just going to, the ruler is really there to help me keep the fabric in place. But it's very important that you get that line because you're going to need it as a guide. All right. Now my line is very faint, but it is there. So let me show you. So once you do that, you should have a line just like what you're seeing I have here. All right, so you're seeing that marking, that's the line I'm going to cut along. So what I just did here, I'm going to do for the front. So again, I'm going to fold my leggings. So now the front part of the leggings is exposed. I'm going to pull on that crotch seam to the front. And then I'm going to lay this in front of me again. Take my ruler because I need, well, you don't really need to use the ruler. You can actually freelance because you see the seam, and then just take your chalk and just mark. All right, so for this part I had to move to my bed because it is the biggest space in my room where I can lay out my fabric comfortably, not have anything falling over on the sides, because with stretchy fabric you want to make sure that you're working on a space where the excess stretchy fabric isn't falling over on the sides, because as a stretchy fabric you don't want anything pulling. So here's my fabric. And remember when I told you it's very important to know which way your fabric stretches. And as I said earlier, for me, my fabric stretches width ways. So it stretches in the width. So I have to make sure that when I'm laying my pattern, the stretch is where I need it to be. So what you want to do is fold your fabric in half, which I already have here, with your right side facing right side. All right. So here's my pattern. You want to make sure you kind of pull that out. You want to make sure that you have everything, nothing is rolled up in any way. All right. You don't want anything rolled up or anything bulged. All I'm doing here is placing my ruler, making sure my 1 inch is laying on, my 1 inch mark is laying on the fabric, the pattern, right? And I'm just drawing a dash. Right? That's all I'm doing. I'm just creating that dash. When you reach the waist area, you want to go in with a 2-inch seam allowance instead of a 1. What this does is give you enough room to play with, and it also gives you a nice high waist leggings. So you would notice my markings. I hope you can see them. So I am going to just freehand and connect my dashes. With my pattern drawn out, I'm going to cut that out now. So to utilize my fabric, I moved a little closer to the edge, but I still left enough room that I could get my 1-inch seam allowance. So I'm just going ahead and cut with my allowance. Notch, 2 snips. 1, 2. It's a notch that will tell me this is the back of my leggings. All right. Right. And this is the front side of my leggings. So I'm also going to put a notch, but instead of 2 snips that I did for the back, I'm just going to put 1 snip. Don't make it too big and don't make it too small that you can't identify. All right. So 1 snip. Move my pattern, and there it is. Now, because my fabric was folded down at the end here, and because the length of my pants is up to here, I'm just going to I know the length because I marked it off, right? So here it is. Here is my leggings pattern for my leggings. Here's the pattern all laid out. And again, you want to fold it right side facing right side. So have the right side of your fabric facing up. And you want to fold your fabric, making sure you connect your crutch pieces, your crutch area, like that. When I'm putting it together, you're going to notice that this is my back. All right, this is my front. And here's my back. You're going to notice that one is higher than the next. And again, that is because it needs to accommodate. All right. So all you're going to do is just line up those crutch peaks right where the curve peaks right there. You're going to just line up those crutch peaks, and you are going to pin that in place. All right, so just go line it up, clip or pin in place. Once you have that, done, then you go ahead and you just bring your edges together and you clip or pin going all the way up until you reach by that crotch peak. Alright, so both my leg pieces are attached. So I'm going to go to my machine and run my stitch. Make sure that the presser foot is lined up with the edge of your fabric, and then run your stitch. You want to use a narrow zigzag stitch for this because it's a stretchy fabric, and I'm using a ballpoint 9014 needle for this project because again it's a stretchy fabric. All right, so go ahead, take your pieces to the machine, and then I'll come back. Okay, so this is the first time I'm using fox leather, and I'm accustomed with certain settings on my sewing machine when it comes to stretchy fabrics. But with this fox leather, I had to make some adjustments. So just in case you're using fox leather like me and you want to get an idea on how to set your sewing machine, you can use my settings as a gauge to try and see if you could, you know, set yours to suit. Again, different sewing machines, different settings and all that. So let me just show you. On my sewing machine, the tension is at 4. The tension is at 4, and I'm using the B setting on my sewing machine. And you will notice that the stitch is very close. I am still using my 9040 ballpoint because that's most important, and my stitch length is at about you could say 2.5 at a bit because it's on that 2.5 somewhere, or 2 and a little piece setting there. So I just wanted to take the time to show you guys that. All right, now that our 2 pieces are sewn, I'm going to take one side and turn it right side out. All right, and notice that I have my stretch where I need it to be. And what I'm going to do is place the one that is turned right side out inside of the other piece that is still turned wrong side facing out, and I'm going to place this inside, making sure that my seam is lined up with my seam. So I'm just going to place this in here. Okay. Right. And what I'm going to do is line up. So I'm going to line up both seam crotches there. As you can see, right side is facing right side. And I'm going to line up my 2 seams. All right. I'm going to take my clip and clip. Again, if you don't have clips, use a pin. And remember those little notches I told you to make earlier on when we cut the pattern? You would notice here they are. So here are those little, so I know that this is the back of my pants. So here's the other pant leg with the same notches, and you notice that they lined up pretty nicely there. So you know that everything is a-okay so far. So go ahead and clip them or pin them together. Okay. And you're just gonna go all the way up to the top on one side. Why my daughters put any big clips there? And then you're just going to go to the other side, which will be your front, because remember the front is where we placed one snip. Right, there it is, lined up all nicely. Just gonna clip it there. I forgot to mention, before you do this whole process that we did here just now, you should probably try on the leg and make sure that it is how you like it. So when I finish pin here, I'll tell you what I mean. Okay, so you know, as you finished running your inner seam and you are left with this piece, what you should probably do is try it on and make sure that it fits well. So I did that when I finished sew the two pieces. So you just take it and you pull it up your leg and make sure that it fits right. If it's too slack, then you just go in a little way from the first seam that you did to get a tighter fit. So what I'm going to do now is go to my sewing machine with that same setting that I have, and I'm just going to stitch from one end all the way up to the next. Here's a tip. If you want to easily identify your back and your front after creating your garments, because those notches may be hard to really look for when you finish sew everything, and it might be a bit tedious to identify. So what I would recommend, so this is my back, I would recommend you take a piece of scrap fabric. This way I know that, hey, this is the back of my pants. So I'm just gonna place it right here on the outside. I'm gonna have to use a pin for this one. So I'm gonna just, right. So this way it'll be easy for me to identify this is the back of my pants. Once you are finished, so here's my little tag signifying the back. Once you are finished running that stitch, open out, and you have to take out that leg you placed in there. Just take it back out, pull it back out, just pull it out there, and that's it. Here's your leggings. Okay, there's the leggings. So I'm just gonna turn this right side out, and I'm going to try it on and see if it fits me. That's basically what you do. That's the process when it comes to creating leggings. Okay, so I tried on my leggings. It fits like a glove. So I'm gonna make a waistband. I folded my material in half, making sure that I have the stretch in mind, and I'm going to go the full length of this. I'm going to go down to 6 inches. I'm going to measure out 6 inches because when I fold it in half, I'll get the waistband will be about 3 inches in length. Now I'm just drawing 3 lines here because I have to connect them to get the line that I need, the straight line that I need. There we go. So I'm just gonna draw the I did a little boo-boo here, so let me just, there we go, much better. So I'm going to cut along that line. And I also have a piece of elastic already cut to the length that I need in the area where I want this leggings to go up to. I'm going to quickly line up my edges, get my band. All right, so here's the waistband completed. All right, see, and once this is folded in half, so after folding the waistband in half and getting, you realize it's on the right side, and this is the folded side and this is the raw edged side. So what you want to do is put your pants in from the raw edged side. So you're putting your pants in and you need to line up your raw edges. I'm gonna line up this back seam with this back seam, all right, of the pants, like that. Take my pin that into place, and I'm just going to go all the way around. So once you have your areas lined up, you just pin or clip into place. Now I'm going to make sure that I leave a little opening to run my elastic through at the end, because I want the elastic to give it an extra pull in when I'm through. So I'm going to go to my machine and attach my waistband. So guys, here's the finished results. I really loved how they turned out, and I even got to wear it at a little event one of my cousins held recently. So guys, I hope my tips and tricks really help you guys out in creating your own, and until next time, deuces.